Awesome. Well, thank you. So welcome to your 12:30 exercise class. I know everybody's here for a star party, but we're going to get up and do... No? Yeah, so, no? Okay. Sorry, somebody sent me this and actually dared me to put it up, and they don't know me well enough to know I have no shame, so... So I had to put that up. So here to talk about the very small array. So it's kind of a project that we put together through a couple different clubs in kind of the Central Florida area. And I guess I can do this. No, eyes are better. Now for the presentation, I'll do it that way. Just to kind of to network, really, to kind of get together. We seem so much that we're on different islands. We're up in Alachua, which is Gainesville. You've got the folks down in Tampa, St. Pete area. And didn't really talk much. So it's kind of, we have a common area in Chiefland where it's about equidistant for us. So we kind of met there at one of our events, started talking, and thought, why don't we do this more? So really kind of astronomy in kind of today's age, it really is, it can be a solitary hobby. I say this sitting at a major star party, which is kind of the exception to the rule. So obviously events like this do exist, but day to day, it's usually pretty solitary. And then with this day and age, the new equipment that exists, everybody is used to the big, heavy, expensive equipment. That's no longer the case. There are fewer barriers to entry to get into the hobby, especially for even the casual person. What once was a expensive, tedious process, $500 in a smartphone, you can get into it and have results that may even challenge some rigs that folks who've been doing it for years and years. And we found that everybody was really hesitant. Those that have been doing that resisted. You're looking at AI, somebody downloaded photos and put it on this box. You're not getting real stuff. What is that? Now, look around the field. Sea stars are everywhere. So acceptance has kind of made this project possible, and then just social media and sharing. I am a millennial. I am guilty of it. I'm sure hopefully one of you two are posting your food on Instagram, right? That was a joke back in the day. Nobody cares about what your dinner is. But in this day and age, how many of you have shared a photo online of your astronomy? Right? I'm seeing hands. So it's really no different. So we are social creatures. It's about sharing. So we wanted to try to kind of develop another way to do that. So kind of our goals, again, were to develop relationships within the clubs. Guy Earl, who was the vice president, or is the vice president at St. Pete, and myself up in Alachua, kind of started this whole thing. And then we just wanted to make it, again, approachable for beginners. I myself have only been in astronomy, organized astronomy, for just a couple of years now. And before, it was such an intimidating thing when I would go and ask people, hey, I want to get into photography. Everybody said, oh, I hope you're ready for punishment. I hope you're ready for pain. And I thought, well, surely it can't be that bad. I'd go to a couple star parties, see their guys with these big, huge rigs. As the night would draw down, it would get dark. I'd hear more and more profanity, the occasional clatter, and thought, oh, hell no, this is not for me. So with these smart scopes, maybe it's approachable. And then again, observe socially. Yes, ma'am.
Don't forget about us aging.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. So yes, I fully recognize when I joined my astronomy club a couple years ago, I walked into the room and I was the only person that had color left in their hair. I fully acknowledge that. But that's what I think is kind of fun about it. I know there's so much depth of knowledge in this field. I've learned so much in the last 2 years as somebody who walked into it. I am a chef by trade. I manage events for a living. I have no business being up here, but yet here I am. So it does make it so that anybody can do it. So it kind of democratizes a little bit. So again, socialization, we really wanted to make that a key component of it. Kind of break those barriers, cross those bridges so that the clubs could get together. So what we initially did early last year was we made a Facebook page, basically so that our clubs could talk to each other a little bit. It was initially open to anybody that was in our Alachua Club, the St. Pete Club, or the Chiefland Astronomy Club. And the Sea Star was really the kind of the first scope. It's what penetrated the market the deepest and the broadest. Now that's changed a little bit, but the C-stars are what you would see everywhere. So that was kind of where we figured, if we're going to do this, let's start with one. It changed over the year, but we started with one, and then we thought, okay, great, we still want to get together, so we met out at Chiefland and had really kind of a heck of an event. Is there anybody here that hasn't imaged really at all before? So I see some hands, so just a quick little note on imaging just to kind of get everybody up to speed a little bit. The one thing that I learned early on is you can never have enough data, especially with something like this small aperture. I mean, it's the size of a silver dollar. So as I learned more and more, I needed more and more data to get pictures that would even closely represent what I could see online when I'd go out and see the guys with their huge rigs. So we need more data. These things crave input. One of my favorite things from back, I think it was in the early 90s or late 80s, was Short Circuit, so Johnny 5. This is a striking resemblance, so I wanted to make sure to do it. So they crave input. That was the line he'd always say, input, input, input. So you need that data. So that kind of goes into the collaborative thing. So one of the best examples that was kind of dumbed down to me, kind of that explain it like I'm 5 moment, was especially for those faint targets, you need more and more data. So being a chef by trade, it latched on to me. So imagine a white napkin or a piece of paper. You've got a pepper mill. One turn of that pepper mill is 1 sub. You get a little bit of data. Photons hit your sensor. You get a little bit, but there's not much there. There's probably more noise and more of that. A little bit more time, get a little bit more data. But if you can compound that and get a ton, that's where you start to get detail, a little bit of structure. Those pepper piles get a little bit bigger. You start to really develop something. So that's what we kind of were looking to do with the very small array and kind of combining our data, as it were. So similar thing. One of the targets that weekend was Thor's helmet. On here, that one crack of the pepper mill, there's nothing. You can't see a thing. 1 hour, hour and a half of one person by themselves, okay, you can start to see a little bit. You kind of get the helmet, a little bit of the wings, but really not much else. But if you get everybody together, that's when you can start to, in the same amount of time, mind you. So if I'm doing it in an hour and a half and I've got 10 other people, I put in an hour and a half's worth of work, but I get the data as if I did it for 10, 12, and so on. So the more people you get, the higher that grows. So it's a little bit, not quite exponential growth, but you get my meaning. So what we did last February was send a word out to Alachua, to Chiefland, and just said, hey, come out. We're going to spend New Moon weekend. Everybody bring your smart scope. We're going to see if there's anything here. So we all gathered. We got about 14 people that actually were willing to contribute. The field was actually more full because we had a lot of curious folks that said, all right, we've seen these sea stars, but what's going on? So we had some cautious onlookers as well. Again, a year ago, these weren't as prevalent. Everybody was still kind of tempered and seeing what their thoughts were for a sea star. I brought my 4. So usually, if those that know me know, I don't tend to do things in half measures. So when I go into something like astronomy, I kind of go hard. So I set up my S50. I had an S30 at the time that ZWO sent us early, and then both my club and my personal Dwarf 3. So I set up a really little tiny array. In the top right, we had some other, got a notification, a couple other little things on the field. But then this is what we kind of ended up with. So we had 21 C-Star S50s on the field. The one thing we learned with new projects is that not everybody knows their devices quite as well as they think they do. You had some people who set the little function that says, save each frame. Yeah, did you do that? Yeah, I totally did. Nope, they forgot to do the frame. Let the battery die, any number of things. So if anything, we found that none of us are as dumb as all of us. So we had got us a bunch together, a little bit of sleep deprivation, but 14 successful contributions to the project. And then this is just sort of an aerial view of what it looked like. We thought it was fun to get everybody in that same photo.
We're right there in the front of the picture.
What's that?
This is the Celestron.
Oh, yes. So that does speak to the nature. Don't tell ZWO that. Don't tell ZWO that I have dwarfs up here. It's not about excluding anybody. If you wanted to come and put your C11 in the photo, so be it. Why not? This isn't about creating barriers for anything. If you don't have a C-star, come play. We don't care. It's the social aspect of that we really want to focus on. There is another group out there, I think they're called like the C-Star Collective. They don't meet in person, it's completely virtual. So we wanted to really bring that Star Party atmosphere, the events that you have here a couple times a year throughout the country, bring that a little bit closer to home. So yes, we had a Celestron or two in there. We'll take them. And so you can see, we had 21 folks, but this is the Chiefland Astronomy Field there. So it's a 5-acre field, and you could see that it was full of people that wanted to contribute, or at least were curious and wanted to be nosy about it. So for the first night, we focused 2 hours. We wanted to try to keep something simple and approachable that somebody could do on one battery without having to plug it in, keep it simple. So we wanted to go for not the bright stuff, that's easy. Orion, it's a magnitude 4. Andromeda, 3.1. That's all the easy stuff. So we wanted to go and challenge these little devices to see what we could do. So we did Thor's Helmet, which is a mag 11.5, NGC 2903, which is a great elliptical galaxy in Leo. And then on night 2, we did Markarian's Chain just to see if we could get those really faint fuzzies, and then a little bit of a bigger galaxy in NGC 4565. So that's what we ended up targeting for, and so these are some of our results. So what we learned is the C-Star isn't quite as reliable as we'd hoped, so while we put in 14 people, 2 hours each, we should have gotten 28 hours. Failures along the way, dropped subs, satellite going through, somebody turning their flashlight or their headlights on and blinding everybody. So what we got was 2,776 frames on Markarian's Chain, and this is the kind of the result of what we're looking at there. So starting to get some really smaller of the members of the chain.
Is that a mosaic?
No, we wanted to keep it really simple. This was actually even before Mosaic was broadly released. I personally just got Mosaic mode released to me, so we wanted to keep it very simple. The more variables we had, the more issues we were going to have. So we just wanted to see if we can you get it turned on? Can you get it set to the right target? Failures along the way, even at that. So things have improved since then, but no, we kept it very simple. So that is just a single field of view on the S50. What you see with the on either side is that field of view, and then this is cropped in a little bit. So if anything, we kept it to that native.
You did what?
So we didn't do a mosaic. So you know how the C-Stars have what's called framing mode, where you can expand or do that mosaic. We didn't do that. We weren't able to do that as a group at that time. So we kept it just to that native field of view, and that's what we were able to get. This is NGC 4565. We got 8 hours of data collected on that through that, and again, you're starting to see really nice detail again for a 50mm scope. You're starting to see some dust lanes and some really nice detail again from a humble little box that kind of does itself. This is.
Do any outside processing?
Yes, so we did stack in PixInsight. So that isn't, in order to do the whole project, somebody has to process it. Now, if you don't process it, that's fine. You don't have to. You can still contribute and see somebody else do the work. You don't have to do the work yourself. So a little bit further on, I'll talk about how we get there. That day we had Guy from St. Pete bring his laptop, and we all came over and plugged our C-Stars in for 15 minutes, dropped the data, and then he sent it out to a couple of us who then processed further. So that's what we got. And then this is 2903. Again, a really small galaxy for a 50mm, but you're starting to see texture, and the picture doesn't quite do it justice. Even up here on my screen, you can see a lot more detail in those arms, so the TV doesn't quite do it justice. And then this was really kind of what was most successful. This was Thor's Helmet, my processing of it. Again, I had processed for about 3 or so months, so bear that in mind as a new processor, that even with enough data on a C-Star, you can start to get some data. So we got 5,400 frames, which equates to about 15 hours of data just from somebody doing 2 hours of work.
So that right-hand picture is the finished?
Yep, and that's just me being a guy who got PixInsight like 2 months before. So I haven't yet gone back to see what I can do now, because I do a lot more complex stuff and do a full imaging rig. So in the hands of somebody who knows what the heck they're doing, you could probably get even more, because I overcooked a lot of stuff back in then. Yes?
This is all right, tutorial, right, Joe?
No, so we kept it. It was before EQ mode was even really supported. So this was very basic. It was 10-second subs. You couldn't go longer than that. So it was just the absolute baseline of what a C-Star can do. Yeah.
Are you restricting this to just people in Chiefland, or are you going to expand it, let's say, to a town in Ohio where you may have grown up?
Spoilers. So this right now is sort of the proof of concept. So Neil told me I had an hour and a half to fill. I'm not going to fill an hour and a half, I promise you that. So we'll get there. More on that here in just a second. And again, going back to that pepper mill, this is what you started with. This is what one person contributed in an hour and a half or 2 hours of data. This is what as a group, we got together. So Guy and myself being a little bit more on advanced side, we wanted to, yes, we had everybody with C-Stars, but we each had a Dwarf 3. So the two of us had a little bit better success. We ran both of ours on 2 nights on the Jellyfish Nebula. And again, what I see here and what I see there, very different, but at least hopefully you get the idea. From an even smaller aperture, a 35 millimeter, a little bit higher resolution sensor, but you're really starting to get a lot of detail. And again, what I did, what he contributed to, we got about 18 hours of data over the 2 nights, just again casually doing it, not knowing what we were doing. And there's just a little bit more zoomed in on that. So that's what we were able to do. So that's sort of the initial the weekend, as it were. And as word kind of got around, we didn't really think to go beyond that, but somehow word travels. So we got a lot of people saying, well, that sounds really fun, but you're in North Florida and I'm in Ohio. What gives? And I'm like, well, we didn't really think about that. So there were a few months of going, all right, is this a thing? Is this something that anybody would really want to do? Are we just a bunch of super nerds gathering that nobody would have interest in? Then realizing we're in a hobby of super nerds. So, but then as we said, well, hey, would you have interest in this? We'd hear well, I'm not in here, I'm not traveling down to Chiefland. We talked to folks even outside of our clubs. Well, I'm not going to drive 2.5 hours to do that. We're like, okay, well, that'll be a problem for the social aspect of it. If you don't like the social aspect of it and you don't like people, because we heard plenty of people say that too, well, I want to bring my C-Star and sit in the backyard. I have absolutely no interest in doing that. All right, well, let's see if we can do something for them too. And then we had people who just said, I'm too damn lazy to get out and do anything. What about us? I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do for you, but we'll try to figure something out. So again, so how do we make it grow was these are kind of the big challenges. So how do we get it to grow? Some of the ideas we were thinking about were a Facebook or Discord server. If you don't know about Discord, think of it as kind of like today's forum. It's more real time, it's chats, you can share pictures, photos, all kinds of stuff. It is a free service. We found out that Facebook wasn't as commonly accepted as we thought. Lots of people saying, I don't want to give Mark Zuckerberg my information. So be it. Another hurdle, like, okay, well, how do we get everybody on the same page? So we've decided the hell with it. We're going to have 2 different groups that there's a lot of crossover, but we're going to do that. And then also, we got a whole lot of data that we got to try to figure out how to get from one place to the other, how to make it available to everybody, because we wanted to make it so that if you contribute, you got the benefit of it. So if you're going to give us time to do that, I want to make sure that you have access to that data. How do we do that? So again, in-person's great for these events. Plug it into a laptop is awesome, but if you're in Ohio, or we've got folks in Maryland, we had some members that went up to Maryland and we haven't seen him since, but his club wanted to be involved. So, but then we wanted to really kind of stay true to what that initial idea was we wanted to make it a social event, so star parties are still a thing. It would seem a natural thing that sea stars and dwarves and unistellars are everywhere. So we'll come to them. We'll do stuff at presentations, and then we'll try to gather people together and kind of bring them on board if they're so interested. And we also had a couple of clubs that reached out. Usually it would take one member from a club to say, I think this is kind of fun. What do you guys think? And then we've just opened it up. So we've done presentations for different clubs. I think we're up to like 16 states or so now. So just different people from around. If you want to hear about it, we'll try to figure out a way to get there. So kind of some of the solutions that we came up with was, again, we made the Facebook, we made the Discord, so it wasn't just thought. And then some of the connections we have, because we are in Gainesville and we have the University of Florida in our backyard, we also have members of our club who are UF instructors and faculties, and through some talk and creative uses, the University of Florida granted us cloud server, and it is unlimited through Dropbox. So we've kind of checked that box of we've got a place for everybody to put it, and there's no threshold for how much data we can put on there if we really want to. The major star parties, we do it out at Cheeseman Astrofest because that's just the closest thing to us. The guys down in St. Pete do the Orange Blossom Special, so they're doing it. Obviously, you're at the Winter Star Party now, so that. I travel out to Okie-Tex the last couple of years. I'll be out there again this year, probably presenting on it and trying to get more folks involved. We did it kind of just by word of mouth there and said, hey, this is what we're doing. We had a few people that knew about us in the area put our scopes together, and usually that kind of draws a crowd. If you've got 10 or 15 smart scopes all standing out, they either think you're crazy or there's a few of you doing it. And then we also, in my work with Chiefland, we're in contact with ZWO and Dwarf Lab. They were both super interested in it. They've actually contributed equipment to that. Dwarf Lab sent out Dwarf 3. I was on the product launch team for the Dwarf Mini. ZWO actually sent us an S30 Pro before it was released, before it got kind of out to the social media influencers and whatnot. So if you have interest in seeing one of those, I have 2 of those on site here. I'm over at one of the leftmost glam tents, so feel free to stop on by. We'll have a meeting here a little bit later in the week that we're going to try to gather everybody together. The folks from ZWO will be there with their mascot, so a little bit more on that. What's that?
How will we find out when you're going to do that?
So I will tell you about that here in just a minute. I've also got some white. No, you're good. You're good. I meander. It's the way I am. So if you obviously see I haven't stood still, that's just how I am. But yeah, we'll get there on that. But I guess I can jump to it. Thursday at 6 p.m. over by the main tent. We're going to gather anybody who has a smart scope. I'm going to put some whiteboards that say where and when the folks.
What is the main tent?
Where they did the welcome talk. Where registration is. That grassy area by registration. Yep, there we go. The main tent, yeah. Grassy area by the registration table is where we're thinking to do it, 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. That way it's a little bit sunset and you still have time. Come 5-10 minutes, take a photo with us, and then go back and do your thing and send us that. So started off with the OG with the C-Star S50, just a little bit about that. I had far more on the equipment than realized. I'm sort of the warm-up act for ZWO Day here, because I know you're going to go into remote astrophotography with smart scopes. The folks at ZWO will be here talking about that, so I really kind of dialed down a little bit of it. So the C-Star S50 is still one of the major pieces of tech we have, but then also the Dwarf 3 is probably in second place as far as number of users that really do it. And we found that those that tend to have a Dwarf 3 are a little bit more technically savvy, so we've been able to kind of push a little bit beyond the S50 results. We've tend to have more success. We do have S30 users, so we've got a file folder for S30 users. We've got the Dwarf Mini because that's coming online, and people said, well, I've got a Dwarf 3. I want to play with my Mini, so.
Supposed to have one here this afternoon, I believe.
What's that?
The Mini.
Oh, there's one right there, so that's actually, what's that?
Is that yours?
Yes.
Wow, that's little.
Oh yeah, it's tiny. If you've not seen one, I know that folks at Dwarf Fry will love it. These things are portable. Jeez. It literally fits in your pocket. There's another one back there. So probably fit in a bag if I'm guessing. So these things are getting silly. So if you're go to a party or go to a star party, if you have your big imaging rig, carry one of these in your car. You're probably amazed at how much you use the thing. So it was really this. I don't like to shill for any company, but this was probably the most fun I've had because I got a call from Sue at Dwarf Lab about 2 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, can you jump on a video call? I want to show you something. And I thought, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. What the hell could you have to show me from China? But hey, I'm get out of bed. I'll try to make myself not look like I just got out of bed because I try to make myself available. And she got on a Zoom call, pulls out this tiny little thing. She's like, put your phone away. And I'm like, it's like, you don't know about this, and pulls out this little tiny thing. I'm like, holy crap. And so she's like, there's one in the mail coming to you. You got to sign an NDA, all that jazz. I actually was able to take it out to Okie-Tex. If you've ever seen some of the car, like the cars before they're released where they put wraps on them to make so they can't photograph them. If you were at Okie-Tex and you walked by, that would not have looked like a Dwarf 3. Actually, yeah, so it was actually out at Astrofest, and I put it kind of because I'm stupid like that, I guess. It was actually right by the main gate as folks walked by. I kind of hid it in plain sight. Everybody walked by it. While we were at Astrofest is when they actually announced it. And then somebody walked by and went, oh. So that was a lot of fun being on the group that kind of developed that and helped bring it from the rough software to really kind of where it is. And it's actually a surprisingly, for the size of it, it's a surprisingly capable little guy and cheap. And then obviously the S30 Pro is brand new. I know there are folks in this area that have them on order that are still shipping, but I have 2 here on site, so we're looking to kind of bring that into the list on how we do that. There we go. So, and then another thing as far as like going beyond what that is, here's a group of us out at Astrofest. I hope to add the Winter Star Party with anybody willing to do that with us. It was just figured out 20 minutes before this meeting when we'll actually do that with the folks at ZWO. So again, tomorrow at 6 p.m. We had members of local astronomy clubs, if you know Rich Russin, so he moved up to Maryland. So we've had folks kind of want to participate as well. So those that have done it have sent us photos back of just them getting together and organizing. So we're kind of just looking to make good on some of the ideas and goals that we have. If you have any interest in kind of joining, that is a QR code to the Facebook group. Again, it's not a huge thing. It's something we do very passively, but it's got slow and steady growth, which is where we want to go. It's just something everybody kind of does in their free time. If you have interest in the Discord, there's the QR code for that, and I can obviously share those details with you. Discord is something you don't have to sign up and give them much information. You can make a random email account, and it's free to use, so there's some pretty easy stuff. And then again, thanks. We have to make sure every time to thank the University of Florida for giving us unlimited data on Dropbox. And on both our Facebook page and our Dropbox are links to just an area. You go, you drag your files in. We've got another link where then you can go and get the data back from them. Kind of the current target list that we have right now for some of the things, because we're diversifying between all the things, are available. So these are some of the targets that we're working on kind of right now. So we're excited to see the contributions that we get from that. And then these are just some of the things that people took the data that we had and did some of their own processing. Kind of on the left and right, you've got Guy and my versions on the Horsehead. I want to say there's about 20 and 30 hours between each of those. This is M78 using the Dwarf Mini. This is about 30 hours. I think there's about 20 hours of the light pollution filter, and then about 16 hours of the dual band built in, just to kind of see if we could get anything else from that. This was the Dark Shark. So this was actually kind of a solo project that I did over 2 nights with a Dwarf, or 2 years with a Dwarf 3, looking to see if I can get the Dark Shark. That is a notoriously difficult target to capture, so I wanted to make sure to give it every advantage I could, take it to dark skies, put copious amounts of time into it just to see, and it's a great result in my humble opinion. This is about 40 hours on the Rosette. I want to say this is with a C-Star S30 cropped in a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of the presentation. I'll leave these QR links up if anybody wants to come by, take a picture of them, join. We certainly welcome anybody that wants to contribute. It really, the community will really kind of go as those that join take it. It's completely democratic. If somebody has an idea, bring it to the table. If somebody wants to contribute something, bring it to the table. We check our egos at the door. That we don't bring any of the politics or any other crap with it. We all have our own things that we're doing with our clubs and our hobbies. So it's just kind of something fun. And yeah, that's pretty much my spiel. So thank you for coming out. I figured that went without saying. She says I didn't talk about the old people. I mean, I try not to.
Well, I'm going to talk about us old people for just a second, if you don't mind me co-opting your thing.
No, you can take over by all means.
Well, you know, I think it needs to be, it's G-rated.
Oh,
You know?
it's still noon. I didn't realize we had the after hours.
An example of the other end of the C-Star thing. This is the newbie end. It's great for people who are just starting out, want to get in the hobby without spending a whole bunch of money. And then there's people like me who got tired of heavy mounts, tired of all the plugs, and whether or not one of them was quit working and figuring out which one that is, trying to figure out and remember how to do the processing with the heavy-duty pre-processing software. I was about to quit. This man came along. I remember saying, astronomy club he did. I went to a couple of small outreach presentations he did. I was sold, and I have never regretted it for a second. I got rid of my big, heavy stuff. In fact, he has.
I've got your 8-inch newt. Yep.
So, if you're struggling, or you get to the point where you're struggling, consider this as an alternative. It saves the hobby for me. And I'm sorry to co-op.
No, you're.
I am passionate.
No, I appreciate that more than you know. It's one of my favorite things to have stories like that. We, out at Chiefland for Astrofest a year ago, we had a gentleman down from Chicago. It was father and son. Father was in his mid-80s. He won a Dwarf 3. They actually cleaned us out. We gave away a Unistellar, a $5,000 scope, and a Dwarf 3. Those guys cleaned us out. But
Was that a cheap one?
it was Astrofest in 2024.
Oh, okay.
And Dad came down, but was again, big heavy equipment, couldn't do it. I got the most. It impacts the nicest story of them saying that it saved his father's interest in astronomy. That he couldn't do it anymore, no matter how much even his son, bringing him out. After about a night of showing him how to do it, we didn't see him again. Turns out he was inside his RV with the dwarf out back, staying warm, comfortable, going all night. They said he hadn't seen his dad stay up that late in years. So it's stuff like that. So again, it can bring somebody into the hobby like me and have them turn obsessive and addictive and have a collection of them. But then on the other side, it can keep people in the hobby, so that these smart scopes I think are pretty special. So, but thank you. So yeah, enough of this feel-good stuff. Because I am a millennial, if anybody likes stickers or anything like that, feel free, please come up. Graffiti everywhere. I'm sure the Winter Star Party folks will love to peel them off of anywhere you want to slap one. No? So, yes?
Do you consider the culmination of all this data to be in any way competitive with Hubble images, stuff like that?
No. I think...
I'm completely...
I mean, it is a $1 billion telescope versus a few $500 scopes. I think the closest thing it does compete to is something that you would see in an astronomy magazine 10 years ago, using professional equipment. As I develop it more and get data in the hands of folks who have been doing processing a lot longer than I have, it will never replace fully the big aperture. Aperture has its reasons. That's why I go for an 8-inch newt. I've got an 80 millimeter. I'm looking to go bigger because glass has its privileges. You simply, physics takes over at that point. You can stretch these for every bit they're worth and get some pretty awesome results that side by side, you may have a hard time determining the difference when you put enough time and data into it. But then if you were to put 10 full imaging rigs next to each other and put dozens of hours of data into it, that's where it stands out. So we're kind of, rather than going vertical in size and scale and cost, we're kind of going horizontal with that. So, yep. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Alrighty, well, yes?
We discussed this earlier. And I have the dwarf that was given to me, brand new, took it out of the box, and I tried to get the thing to work. And it's very easy just to follow the steps, 4 steps. And I got 3 of them, and then the 4th was the firmware update, and it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
I tried it 4 times, it wouldn't work. And you were saying something about you have to use the phone separately. So
these devices create a Wi-Fi network, if you're in the field or not. So everybody kind of puts that to internet. Not the same thing. They're a little bit different. So Wi-Fi is the way that the network communicates, but it doesn't have to be net. So if you look on your phone, I don't know if iPhones say the same thing, but when my Android connects, it'll say connected without internet. So you've done the handshake, you're talking to the device, but you're not out to the outside world. In order to get the firmware update, your phone at some point probably got a notification in your app store or whatever saying, hey, there's something out here, and it probably downloaded automatically. Your phone updates all the time, so you got the data here, and maybe it didn't get all the data it needed. So that's where if you get connected and it does need an update, you should be able to bypass that and tell it no, don't update, and it operate just fine. Sometimes though, if they find some massive issue, they'll, I know ZW especially will say, no, you have to update, sorry about your luck. That's where I would break the connection, turn off your Wi-Fi, because if your phone's using its Wi-Fi to talk to your device, a lot of times that will break your cell phone signal. So if you're ever out in the field using these and you're connected to your device, to your C-Star for an hour or two, and then you turn it off and go do something else, and you notice, oh my gosh, I got 10 text messages come one after another, that's your phone kind of reconnecting to the outside world. So you just have to make sure that your phone can get all that information that it needs, not just start the process. So that's probably what you had happen. It got it there, you may have stopped it inadvertently, or it may have lost connection, or for whatever reason it didn't get everything it needed. So that's where you need to make sure to get everything loaded onto the phone, and then your phone is what actually communicates to the dwarf. So it's pulling it from the internet, and then your phone processes the update.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah. So, and yeah, if you have any questions on those, if there's issues on that, usually at Astrofest I roam the field doing tech support, but it's a much bigger field here. But yeah, if you see me around, feel free, ask a question. I don't know all of the answers, especially with ZWO here. I had an issue with my S50. It does a beta test. And the last couple nights, it would say it runs, and then I wouldn't save a single frame. So sometimes software breaks, it is what it is. I went up to the team and said, hey, I'm having an issue. 4 o'clock this morning, my phone pinged and said, you have an update. Updated my C-Star. I got a couple hours of Omega Centauri before the sun rose. So again, stuff happens. A lot of times you may find that it's more user error, and that's fine, it's okay. It happens all the time. It's the same story of, oh, I went out to image and I left the lens cover on. Stuff like that happens. These are simple to use, and sometimes you may be convinced it's a little too simple, so you overlook something. It is what it is. Don't get frustrated with them. Groups like this, we hope exist so that people can help each other out. So that's what we're hoping to achieve with that. So, yeah.
How do you handle the different fields of view between the S50 and the S30 when you're doing the array? Is that an issue because it's a wider field of view on
Yep.
the S30
It is.
than the 50?
So we've tried to keep it so that for the most part, at least a year ago, everybody had one or the other. Now we're starting to know that everybody has 1, 2, 3. So the data is all organized in folders. So if you go to the C-Star S50 folder, it has that data. If you want the 30 data, you can go there. If you want the dwarf and so on. And it really then becomes your ability to process. We have guys that will process and will take those different fields of view because you can do that now relatively easily in PixInsight, or at least you'll get that same core. Yes, there'll be overlap that you throw out, but that happens with any image over time. So if you kind of stay in your lane, it works, but you can, with the right knowledge, combine those subs, and it does work.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
So.
The S50 seems like it's loose on the base. It's wobbling.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was watching it, waiting to see if
Yeah, I wanted to let you know because it could fall off. I had one fall off.
Thanks for waiting an hour to tell me about that.
Didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, don't worry. I would prefer to be interrupted than the $500 scope smashing onto the concrete. So, thank you. I appreciate it. I would have appreciated you diving to get it,
I was
though.
ready to die.
I saw you the whole time. I had faith. I had faith. So, excellent, excellent. Any other questions or anything I can answer for anybody? No?
That's the S50 right there.
This is an S50, S30 Pro. Dwarf 3 is the bigger one. Dwarf Mini is the smaller one. So,
All I
but,
can say is thank you.
oh, no, thank you for coming.
You are the reason I have one, and I am grateful forever.
Oh, you're very kind. You flatter me far too much, but, so, well, thank you guys. I appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Thank you.